2016 marks the 150th anniversary of Davenport University, one of Michigan's oldest institutions of higher learning, and one that's beloved by thousands of its graduates. Our story begins in the days just after the Civil War, with the arrival of Union Army veteran Conrad Swensburg.
I began my new enterprise in 1866, a college that would teach young men the skills they needed to succeed in business.
The Grand Rapids Business College was an important part of the city's business scene for the next few decades. But by 1910, the school's fortunes had reversed, and deepening deficits, declining enrollment, and fierce competition threatened to close the doors. One of the young instructors at that time was a man named Michael Edward Davenport.
I'd been at the school for about 3 months. The rumor was that the owner of the school had decided to cease operations, leaving students with unfinished courses and faculty unpaid. I just didn't think that was right.
A group of students asked Davenport if he would take over management of the struggling enterprise. Even though there was no cash and debts of nearly $5,000, he agreed. Things gradually turned around. The student body grew. And in 1924, Davenport bought out the local competitor to form the Davenport McLaughlin Institute. Michael Edward Davenport, or Emmy Davenport as he was called, developed a reputation as an innovator in education, combining studies in humanities along with practical skills. This forward-thinking approach was particularly valuable as the country endured the 1929 stock market crash.
It became clear that graduates from other colleges' liberal arts programs just weren't prepared for the post-crash job market. Our methods at Davenport McLaughlin helped students become successful, and they also helped to change the educational theory and practice of that day.
Davenport's approach to education helped the Davenport McLaughlin Institute to succeed. He then expanded his influence in higher education by starting another institution in town, called the University of Grand Rapids. Begun in 1935, one of this university's more famous football coaches was none other than Gerald R. Ford, who later became the 38th President of the United States. During World War II, however, most of the University of Grand Rapids student body departed, along with many key members of its faculty and administration, and the new university was unable to survive. The Davenport McLaughlin Institute, however, continued to thrive. The end of the war began a new growth surge as the GI Bill and widespread labor shortages prompted many returning soldiers to head back to school. One of Emmy's greatest accomplishments was to convert the Davenport Business Institute, as it was now called, to nonprofit status in 1954. Emmy Davenport passed away in 1959, a leader who was greatly loved by students, faculty, staff, and the Grand Rapids community. He believed in helping students, as he often said, to make a living, make a life, make a contribution. And he fostered a unique approach to career training that helped set the stage for the next era.
Davenport Institute, a story of free enterprise and education. The college operates from 2 locations, and this is the main classroom building and administrative offices.
The next 50 years of Davenport University's development occurred under the dynamic leadership of just 2 men. The first was Robert Sneeden, the successor to Emmy Davenport, as well as the former president's son-in-law.
The 60s and 70s were a golden age for the country, as well for higher education. During that time, I made sure Davenport continued to expand on its practical education tradition. We were the first independent business school in Michigan to achieve collegiate status. We were accredited by the North Central Association, a major accomplishment, and by 1967, we'd grown to over 2,000 students.
My father and grandfather's approach anticipated by many decades what colleges and universities are doing today. He was very committed to a person being trained with a skill. Both were educators, but also very much businessmen and entrepreneurs. It's extraordinary to me that a small school that basically started and operated for so long as a family business became a major institute of higher education.
By the late 70s, the baby boomers were moving through the educational system. Economic recession was looming, and profound shifts in the global economy were occurring. And the first president outside the Davenport family was appointed. His name was Don Main.
We knew that Davenport needed to change, just as it has done in all of its previous eras. We began to shift toward the adult learning because the K-12 enrollment was really beginning to fall off. And so bringing in adult students was really a new thing for higher education. By the end of 1985, we graduated our first class of baccalaureates, and just 3 years later, had our first MBA graduate. Prior to my retirement in 2000, we had 3 separate colleges operating at the same time. That worked for a few years until we became a university. Davenport University was known as a high-quality institution in 3 states, and I was always very proud of that.
I think Davenport is well positioned for success because it has always been able to change. It's able to see what's ahead and then make changes as needed to meet the needs of the students.
My last day, I went into what was called the President's Room, and I stared at Emmy's portrait and I stared at Bob's. And mentally I had this conversation. All I did was sit there and stare, and I just said, I hope you feel that I did a good job.
The year 2000 saw the first leadership change at the university in 25 years. President Randy Flexig had the difficult task of completing the merger of 3 separate colleges into one enterprise. He reinstituted Davenport's athletics program and expanded upon the fledgling online education program. And he presided over the opening of the W.A. Lettinga campus in the fall of 2005. Wilbur Lettinga, the namesake for the campus and one of Davenport's longest tenured board members, talks about what the new campus meant for the university.
Don Main sat down with me one day and said, Bill, you ought to think about making a major contribution. We ought to build a new campus. It seemed like a really far out idea, but the more I thought of it, the more we talked, we said, let's do it. My life is the joy of watching the quality improve every day at Davenport, and that the students go out of here and get a job.
Davenport's current president, Dr. Richard Pappas, arrived in 2009.
Through Vision 2015, we're at the highest levels of all of our student outcomes. 110% increase in graduation rate, innovative new programs, a new college of urban education, an employment guarantee, competency-based education, and so much more.
Davenport has always been focused on helping students get where the world is going in their careers. The focus on quality, the focus on innovation, what I've seen in terms of change at the school brings me great excitement.
With the new challenges of the 21st century, we need to aspire to even higher levels of quality and pursue new approaches that enhance the value of our education. Through our new vision for 2020, we'll accelerate student outcomes, introduce new innovations, and propel Davenport into the upper echelons of higher education.
From humble beginnings in 1866 to its status today as a leading university, Davenport has helped students get where the world is going for 150 years and is poised to continue that mission for the next 150 years.
I invite you to be part of Davenport University's future and continued success. Thank you very much.